Hey everyone, Joey here, and today we're going to be doing a very quick look at the XU Retro XU20 V32, which is this device right here. And you might be wondering, why do I have a TrimUI Brick right here? Well, these are very similar devices from specs to price point to use case and everything. So I thought I would do a very quick comparison between the two as well, and just get everything in one video. Now, so when I say very similar, I mean very similar. They both have the same all-winner A133P processor. They both have the same GPU. They both have the same 3.2-inch 1024 by 768 HD screen. However, a major difference between the two is there is touchscreen on the V32 because it is running Android. So you don't have to actually use Linux. You are using their version of Android, and that is actual touchscreen. We have Wi-Fi on both, mono speaker on the V32, stereo speakers on the TrimUI Brick, 3200 milliamp hour battery on the V32, 3000 milliamp hour battery on the TrimUI Brick, and we have 2 gigabytes of RAM on the V32 compared to 1 gigabyte of RAM on the TrimUI Brick. Now, pricing wise, the V32 does retail for $48 US plus shipping, and the TrimUI Brick is hard to nail down. You can get it as low as $40 in AliExpress sales, MSRPs for like $80, $70, so somewhere in that range. I would consider them to be very similar pricing wise, depending on sales and all of that. Now, looking at these two together, the V32 is basically a bigger brick. That's really the only way I could put this. It is the brick if it had some love handles, if it was just a little bit thicker. That's really the only difference here. We have very similar devices, except in one way where it matters the most to me is the triggers and shoulders are so much better on the V32 compared to the Brick. One of my biggest annoyances of the TrimUI Brick is these back buttons, which XU Retro has fixed here, considering I don't have that problem anymore. I can easily use, and it's very comfortable to use, all of these shoulders and triggers, which is a good thing. Otherwise, as far as buttons go, we have all of the same things. So TrimUI has their menu button down here. XU Retro actually has it right over here. So you basically have a side button as a menu button instead of on the face down here. And then we have our actual buttons here of a D-pad, face buttons, start and select, start and select. Now, we should talk about the D-pads and the D-pad differences. I don't mind the controls on the TrimUI Brick. I've found them to be just fine. They are serviceable. I don't mind them. They're not loud, nothing like that. But the V32 just has better controls to me. So you have a D-pad here that is much larger. You have a very, very big D-pad compared to the TrimUI Brick. And it feels nice and smooth. It's not hard to push down. You got a lot of movement here. I'm a big fan of it. It's a nice D-pad. On the buttons end, you have similar to the TrimUI Brick, except these are actual travel. They're actual face buttons. So they're not just micro switch or one click and you're done. You have actual travel to these. I find these to be a lot better. There's a lot more feedback to them. There's just right amount of resistance on them. So I'm a big fan of these in comparison. I would have to give it, if I'm looking at both of these from a control perspective, it goes from the V32. The V32 is just better to me. And these are similar sizes as well. So it's not really, you're not giving up much different here when it comes to actual size difference if you wanted one over the other. And it's going to tie into my point by the end of this that the V32 is actually a better brick, in my opinion. Despite sharing a lot of the same specs, I like the V32 a lot more. Now, as far as ports go, we have USB-C charging on both. So you have DC charging here, USB-C charging here. There's a headphone jack at the bottom on this one, except on this one is on the top. And we have another OTG port on this, as well as the micro SD card slot is actually on the side for the V32, where it is on the bottom on the TrimUI Brick. Now, I mentioned it before, but one major difference between the two is the V32 is running Android. That changes a lot of things for what you can do with it. It also means that it's running out of the box with the best operating system that you can get on one of these devices. Now, XU Retro is using the Aurora launcher here. That's what they call it, and just called Aurora. And it might invoke some feelings of Onion OS to a lot of people. Not in the way that it is Onion OS, but it is very similar in the way that it's laid out. You have your main screen here. It's pretty easy to navigate, games, everything. And well, I've showed off Dawn Launcher before, which is Magic X's launcher, and it's similar to the Aurora launcher. There is a lot more you can do in the Android side here. So if we push start on a system, you can change the CPU mode for that system, or you can change the emulator core set for that system. Very easy to do from this screen right here. There's overlay selections, integer scaling, art scraping if you wanted to. All of that is available to you. Or you can jump in and you can do the same thing on a per game basis. So you have all of this available to you right out of the box. It's very easy to use. It's one of the reasons I like this launcher. I've been a big fan of it since I saw it in Magic X's first device, and they just keep implementing different things and making it better and better. Anybody familiar with Daijisho? It is a very similar experience here. You have your apps, which means all of your Android apps are here, emulators and such. These are what come pre-installed on the V32. It is on the SD card because the actual SD card is Android. So there is nothing running. If I take out the SD card, the device can't turn on. So you have an SD card that will have Android on it, and it is actually a branded SD card, which is cool. If you want to upgrade the SD card, you can. You can just flash Android onto it using their software, and then you can add all of your ROMs and things like that to it. On the settings side, we have all of the usual things that you would expect. So you can go over to settings, and these are the Android settings. So if you want to just take a look, change anything on this front, usually the display, dark mode, that sort of thing, you can. Otherwise, you have a whole bunch of other things that you can do here. For one, continuing that Onion OS comparison, there is a game switcher option here. And if you remember, it works the same thing as Onion OS on MIUI devices. So that is something that's pretty cool. I enjoy using that from time to time. You have Screen Scraper. Again, you can scrape all of the media on the device. It is built into the actual front end. There is overlays. You can adjust the RetroArch settings. So one thing we can do here is turn on autosave and resume. You can turn it off or on. It's a nice little option if you wanted to. If we scroll down, one of my favorite features here in this launcher is selecting the ROMs folder. Now, by default, this is already set up. However, let's say I had a new card. I can click Add, select that card, and it will create all of the folders for the ROMs that you need, which is actually really cool. It makes it very simple for you to just add your ROMs to the right folders because it will create them for you and it will set them all up within the launcher. That is one of my favorite features that is just not available on any other front end, but you have it here. Now, one other thing to talk about, because Android is on the SD card, you can't pop out the SD card, throw it into a PC, and then transfer files over. You're not able to see the actual partition that you can actually add ROMs to. So you have two ways to transfer files to this device. You can connect a USB-C cable to your PC. It'll show up there as a drive, and you can just do simple drag and drop, or you can do wireless services. And they do have an FTP service built in. So you can just use something like FileZilla or any other FTP software to just transfer files over. Makes it very easy. One last thing, there are online updates that you can do, and it'll check for updates as long as you're connected to the internet, which is cool. It'll keep it all up to date for you, and it's nice to have an over-the-air updater built in. Now, as far as power goes and performance, it is the exact same as the TrimUI Brick. So arcade games obviously work just fine on here, and you could play some arcade if you wanted to, just some Galaga, just trying it out, but that's all going to work here. And then, because of the 4x3 screen, if we look at some NES, this plays fantastic on here, as you would expect. Again, anybody familiar with the TrimUI Brick knows what to expect here for performance, but we'll run through them anyways. And then we have Super Nintendo, which again, 4x3, but this would be one of my favorite systems to play on here because Super Nintendo is one of my favorite systems, and it looks great on here. 4x3, 1024 by 768, you have a lot of pixels to work with. It looks very crisp. The screen is fantastic on here. It is great. And so Super Nintendo, one of the best ways to play. Then we have Game Boy Color. Screen is a little bit inset because you have black bars on the side. It's a 4x3 screen, so you're not going to get full screen usage here. But again, really good use case here for these systems, even the TrimUI Brick, Game Boy and Game Boy Color. They look fantastic on here. Game Boy Advance is another system that plays very well on here and looks good. It's 3x2, so it's a little bit smaller than the 4x3 aspect ratio, but Game Boy Advance is just so good, and it still looks great on a 4x3 screen. So you can have a lot of fun with this. Then we have PlayStation 1, and this would be the last system as far as power goes that I would suggest that you buy this for. PlayStation 1 games will run fantastic on here, and great. And everything else under that. So all of your Nintendos, all of your Sega Genesis, Sega Game Gear, Master System, all of that, all great on here. But PlayStation 1 is where I would consider the top end for a few different reasons. Number one, you don't have a stick, so you can't really go to Nintendo 64, although you can use the D-pad for Nintendo 64 if you want to have a bad time. But I would consider PS1 to be the end. Once again, though, Dreamcast is the same issue, so consider PS1 to be about the end of what you can play on here. Now, as far as the speaker goes, it is a bit muffled. It isn't amazing, but it is serviceable. I think I would give the win to the TrimUI Brick if I had to do a comparison between the two, but it's fine for what you're getting here. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. Overall, I like this quite a bit. Now, I've talked a lot about the TrimUI Brick over a lot of different videos. A lot of things that I was not happy with. I like the design of it. I like the colors of it. The shoulders and triggers are unusable to me, and that's a big problem, as well as the heat. That is something that gets really annoying over time. It does get warm. I was playing Game Boy. It was super heating up. I had this also crash on me a few times, but that's not a big deal. It's software or SD card shenanigans, all of that fun stuff. I know there's a lot of people that love the TrimUI Brick, but it just didn't hit for me. So when this arrived, and it was just slightly bigger TrimUI Brick with a little bit more comfort, better D-pad, better buttons, and better shoulders and triggers, instantly I like this a lot. I don't know if I'm going to be using this quite often, but I actually like this quite a bit, especially in comparison to the TrimUI Brick. Now, one thing that I do want to mention, on the heat part, it is similar here. It might just be the exact same. This does get hot in certain spots, the same way the TrimUI Brick does, so there isn't any difference here. That is an unfortunate side effect of the all-winner A133P. It gets hot, so I wish people would stop using that chip because it's not very good. Other than that, yeah, for $48, there's a lot to like here. If you want a smaller device, again, these are smaller devices. They are not big at all. So if you want something smaller to just throw into a pants pocket and just walk around with, I like this a lot. Android, you have a lot of options there. You have a lot of options for what you can play. There is a lot to like here. So for me and my uses, yeah, this is an awesome, small little vertical handheld. And I would say it's better than the Brick, in my opinion. The XU Retro XU20 V32, what an unfortunate name, to me is a recommend. I actually like this quite a bit. So if you're looking for something like this, check it out. I have a link in the description where you can grab one. Otherwise, that's all for today. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow. Come join me on the Discord to talk all about retro handhelds. Support me through YouTube membership if you like my stuff. And hope you all have a good one.